very good morning. It's just past 8 this Thursday morning and we're back again with all the news and breakfast news this morning. And over the course of the next 1 hour, we'll get you news from across the nation, international, sports and business updates. And our focus is going to be on the second phase of voting there for the assembly elections in Assam and West Bengal. That has begun. We'll continue our coverage there and also be going across to our correspondents and getting you the very latest updates there from on the ground. I am Nancy Kohli and with me is Preeti.
Yes, it's a packed 1 hour ahead when we talk of other news which will be in focus. It is 1st of April today and the next phase of vaccination drive will begin from today onwards, wherein people above the age of 45 years will be vaccinated. And what is important here is to be noted that they will not be required to put forth any certification of comorbidity. So it's a word of caution and a word of advice for all of you. Apart from, keeping yourself intact against COVID-19, practicing all the guidelines and practicing all the behavioral changes, make sure that people above the age of 45 years get yourself vaccinated today onwards. Added to that, we'll also get to international updates, we'll get to sports updates, a health tip as well. Enough to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour. First, the headlines.
Voting for the second phase in Assam and West Bengal continue. The votes being cast for 39 seats in Assam and 30 seats in West Bengal. Prime Minister Modi urges the people of Assam and West Bengal to vote in record numbers. Adequate arrangements have been made to protect against COVID-19.
Election campaigning at its peak in 5 states. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address rallies in Assam and West Bengal today. Home Minister Amit Shah's rallies in Puducherry and Tamil Nadu. BJP President JP Nadda's roadshows and rallies in Kerala. Also, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will campaign in Kerala.
The next phase of COVID-19 vaccination in the country begins today. The vaccination for all above 45 years of age opens today. The Union Health Secretary reviews the vaccination preparations with all the states and union territories. Says there is no shortage of the vaccines in the country. Insists the states on bringing the vaccine wastage below 1%.
India's vaccine metry continues. Made in India vaccine land in Aden in Yemen. Fiji's Prime Minister thanks India for providing them with COVID-19 vaccine. Says through vaccine metry, India is adding the missing piece of equity to COVID equation.
The strength of the Indian Air Force increases further. In the 4th batch of the Rafale fighter jets from France, 3 Rafale aircraft arrived in India last night. Now, these planes were flown to India from the Istres Air Base in France in a non-stop flight.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar holds detailed talks with Foreign Minister of Tajikistan Sirojidin on all aspects of bilateral agenda, exchanges views on regional and international issues of interest, says development cooperation an important pillar of bilateral ties.
US President Joe Biden unveils a $2.3 trillion plan to re-engineer the country's infrastructure over the next 8 years. The move, called a once-in-a-generation investment in America, planned to transform America's infrastructure. Well, those were all the headlines at the top of 8. Let's now begin with the second phase of assembly elections in Assam and West Bengal.
Let's get to updates from Assam first. Voting for second phase of assembly elections in Assam and West Bengal has begun. All necessary arrangements have been put in place. In Assam, 345 candidates, including 26 women, are in the fray for 39 assembly constituencies spread over 13 districts. Over 73.44 lakh voters, including 36.09 lakh women and 135 third gender persons, will decide the fate of these candidates. 135 transgenders may also exercise their franchise. There are 3 main alliances this time, including the BJP-led NDA with partners Ahom Gana Parishad and the United People's Party Liberal, and the Mahajot or Grand Alliance led by Congress. It includes All India United Democratic Front, Bodoland People's Front and the Left parties, while yet another conglomerate of Ahom Jatiya Party, that is AJP, and Raijor Dal are also there. BJP has fielded 34 candidates. Congress has fielded 28. AJP has put forth 19 candidates. AIDUF has put forth 7. AGP has fielded 6 candidates and BPF has fielded 4, while 176 independents and others are also trying their luck.
And also the voting for the second phase of the assembly elections in West Bengal has also begun. 30 seats spread over 4 districts goes to the polls in this phase. Polling is being held on 9 seats, each in East and West Medinipur, 8 seats in Bankura and 4 seats in South 24 Parganas. While the state is witnessing an 8-phased election this time around. Over 75,94,000 electors will decide the fate of 171 candidates, including the heavyweights in the second phase. A total of 10,620 polling stations have been set up for the second phase in the state. Now, while the BJP and the Trinamool Congress are contesting on all the 30 seats, the Congress, the left parties and their alliance partner Indian Secular Front are contesting under the banner of Sanyukt Morcha. The CPIM has fielded 15 candidates, Congress 9, CPI 2, ISF 2 and AIFB and the RSP 1 each, while 7 candidates of the BSP, 32 independents and 44 others are also in the fray.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also appealed to the voters to exercise their franchise and turn out in huge numbers in both the states today in the second phase. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said, and I quote him, "Second phase of Assam polls takes place today, requesting all eligible voters of this phase to strengthen the festival of democracy by exercising their franchise." Also for the people of West Bengal, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote him, urging the people of West Bengal in whose seats there is polling taking place today to vote in record numbers.
And let's now go across to our correspondents. They're joining us from Assam and West Bengal, where the second phase of voting is taking place today. Kamal Bora is joining us from Moregaon in Assam, and Prasenjit Bakshi is joining us from Kolkata. Kamal, coming to you first, good morning. First of all, give us a sense of how the voting is panning out there in the second phase today. From the polling booth where you are, just give us a sense of the enthusiasm that people are exercising today, coming out and voting.
The voting has already started since 7 o'clock in the morning, and it will continue till 6 o'clock. But we have seen while coming to this polling station, why we have come to this polling station in Moregaon district, because Piyush Hazarika, the sitting MLA from this constituency, who happens to be the Minister of State for the Health and Family Welfare Department of Assam also, he is going to cast his vote from at this polling station. That's why we have come and to capture that visual. And we have seen while coming to this polling station, we have come across many polling stations, and we have seen people way in a queue since 6 o'clock. Somebody may come at 5:30 also just to cast their votes as early as possible. So it shows the enthusiasm, because it's a huge festival, it's a democratic festival, huge democratic festival, and nobody want to miss the chance to cast their vote. And though we have seen that sky is gloomy, it's been raining yesterday also, today also it's likely to rain. It seems like, but still we have seen that people were in queue, in a long queue since morning. And here also at this polling station, there are five polling centers are here, and we have seen that long queue are there. All the COVID protocols have been are being maintained here also. So as far as enthusiasm is concerned, it's quite high, and we are expecting a high turnout this time.
All right, you're expecting a high turnout this time around. Kamal, you're in Moregaon. I would want you to get us more details about the constituency. You tell us that Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare is contesting in this phase. Tell us more about the political contest, and also what other important factors can be witnessed in this constituency.
See, as far as the sitting MLA is concerned, he was once upon a time he was contesting for Congress, but in 2016 he shifted to BJP, and then for that time also he won with a huge margin. And this time also he is contesting, and many we have seen that many supporters of Congress and other political parties have joined BJP this time also, and which have strengthened his support base further. So so we can though we can't predict right now, and it's gonna be a straight fight between BJP and Congress, because the candidate who is representing from Congress, he is Sapan Mondal, so he is contesting for the first time, so people are expecting from him also some support. So but as far as the contest is concerned, it's gonna be a straight fight, but definitely it will be a tough fight for Congress, because the sitting MLA, he has a very huge support base. Definitely it will be quite difficult for the Congress Congress candidate to defeat him this time from this constituency.
All right, and of course, votes being cast there for 39 seats in Assam. Kamal, just give us a sense of the significance, the importance of these seats, and how crucial is the second phase of the assembly elections that's today is going to be in in really deciding the political scenario of the state once the elections are over.
Definitely, see, I would like to say here that this 39 constituency where the voting is going on, 15 from the Borak Valley itself, and we have seen in 2016, before 2016, Borak Valley, where 15 constituencies are there, it was a stronghold of Congress and AIUDF, and they and both the parties are they're fighting this election together this time. But in 2016, what we have seen a huge changes. Almost about 8 seats were captured by BJP in 2016, and 4 were captured by AIUDF, and 1 or 2 captured by Congress. But this time, definitely the way central leaders are campaigning in Borak Valley, we have seen that that the campaigning was intensified in Borak Valley also to capture the whole all the 15 seats. Already 8 sitting MLAs are there in Borak Valley from BJP, and this time definitely BJP will try to increase the number in Borak Valley. Definitely that's gonna be a huge it's a crucial one in Borak Valley. As far as other seats are concerned in Brahmaputra Valley, see the other constituencies apart from that 15 right. BJP and BPF, they are ruling, they are having the highest number of seats this time, and since BPF is fighting with Congress this time, and in BTC area, out of 12 seats in BTC, 4 polling are taking place in 4 constituencies today, and all the 4 constituencies are under BPF right now. Definitely BJP and UPPL will try to capture those 4 seats also in this 39 out of these 39 constituencies, and other constituencies, if we deduct these 4 and 15 constituencies, the other constituencies also BJP is ruling. BJP is having highest number of constituencies. Definitely BJP has left no stone unturned to capture all the seats. Definitely it's going to be a crucial one. Definitely the number is likely to increase out of these 39.
All right, Kamal, stay with us. From here we turn focus to West Bengal, and Prasenjit is joining us from Kolkata. Prasenjit, this is the second phase of polling in West Bengal. To begin with, tell us what are the factors that are marking this phase different from the first phase? Any special factors, any special important points that we look forward to in this phase of polling?
Look, the entire focus, of course, is on Nandigram, where the Trinamool Congress leader Mamata Banerjee and BJP leader Shubhendu Adhikari are contesting. So what has happened that all other 29 seats have gone back-seated, and the entire focus is on Nandigram. But apart from this, I must say that very important seats are going to poll in this second phase. In West Midnapur, there are places which are very important in terms of BJP and Trinamool Congress, both the seats in Bankura and the 4 seats of South 24 Parganas, all are very important. I must say, statistically, according to the last Lok Sabha election of 2019, out of these 30 seats, Trinamool Congress was ahead in 18 seats, and BJP was in 12 seats. So this is the time when BJP would try to increase their number, their tally, and of course for the Trinamool Congress, the challenge is to retain the number at least in 18 or to increase it. But at the end of everything, I must say that it is a challenge for the Election Commission to complete a peaceful election today, because there is a high voltage election keeping Nandigram in the mind. And that is why a huge amount of paramilitary forces are deployed in the different parts of the 4 districts, and trying our best to maintain law and order at this stage.
Absolutely. Prasanji, talking about Nandigram, and this phase is very important because of one aspect, that's Nandigram, because it's really considered to be a prestige fight between the BJP and the TMC. So just tell us more about the prestige fight being fought in Nandigram, and talking about the high profile candidates in this phase, the second phase today.
Look, early morning, Shubhendu Adhikari went out riding on a bike, and he has casted his vote. Okay. The point is that the Shubhendu Adhikari is one step ahead than Mamata Banerjee to prove himself as the son of the soil, because now his name in the voter list is listed in Nandigram itself, whereas Mamata Banerjee still is a voter of his erstwhile constituency Bhavanipur in Kolkata. So Shubhendu Adhikari has taken the advantage of being a local voter, and he has come out early in the morning, casted his vote, shown the finger to the media, and appealed to the people of Nandigram to poll in a huge number. Mamata Banerjee still she is spending nights in Nandigram for the last 3-4 days. She is there in Nandigram very much, but we have not seen so far that she has come out and encouraging her voter at least till 8 a.m. in the first hour of the morning. But obviously she will come out, she will roam around in the constituency, and Shubhendu Adhikari also. And a lot of central leadership are keeping eyes on, in case of BJP, a lot of central leadership are keeping eyes on Nandigram, what is happening, because as you said it clearly that it is a prestige fight for both Trinamool Congress and BJP.
All right, thank you so much, Prasanjit, for joining us from Kolkata, and thank you, Kamal, for joining us from Morigaon, Assam, and telling us more about the second phase of polling, which is being held in both the states today. We'll keep you updated. Those were the correspondents joining us and getting us an update on how the day has begun there when we talk of the second phase of polling in the 2 states.
Absolutely. Continuous coverage here on DD India as far as the second phase of voting there in these 2 states is concerned. While campaigning is also in full swing in the 5 battleground states, the campaigning for the later phases of elections in Assam and West Bengal has now gained momentum. Prime Minister Modi will be addressing the public rally at Kokrajhar in Assam. The Prime Minister will also address 2 rallies in West Bengal, at Joynagar of South 24 Parganas and Uluberia of Howrah. The polls will take place on both the seats in the 3rd phase, that's on the 6th of April. And the senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will also hold roadshows in Puducherry as a part of the election campaign. Amit Shah will hold roadshow in Aravakuruchi and address a public rally at Tirukoyalur in Tamil Nadu. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will visit Kerala and hold various public meetings as part of his election campaign as well.
And changing track from the poll-bound states to other news. Now, the strength of the Indian Air Force increases further. In the 4th batch of Rafale fighter jets from France, 3 fighter jets have arrived in India last night, and these planes were flown to India from the airbase in France in a non-stop flight. The fresh batch of Rafale fighter jets made by French defense manufacturer Dassault Aviation. The first batch of the 5 Rafale fighter jets were formally inducted into the Indian Air Force in Ambala Air Base in September last year.
The registration for the upcoming annual pilgrimage to the Himalayan cave shrine of Amarnath in South Kashmir will start from today. The 56-day yatra to 3,880-meter high shrine is scheduled to start from the twin routes of Pahalgam and Baltal on 28th of June and culminate on 22nd August. Registration will be done through 446 designated bank branches of the Punjab National Bank, Jammu and Kashmir Bank and the Yes Bank all over the country. The details about the procedure for registration, application form and the state-wise list of the bank branches with complete addresses are available on the board's website. Only health certificates that are issued by doctors or medical institutes authorized by the state governments or the Union Territory administrations will be accepted at the registered bank branches.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Wednesday held detailed talks with Foreign Minister of Tajikistan Sirojudeen on all aspects of bilateral agenda, including development cooperation. The leaders also exchanged views on regional and international issues of interest. They agreed to focus on further enhancing our economic partnership. After meeting with Foreign Minister of Tajikistan, External Affairs Minister in a press statement said, and I quote him, both foreign ministers shared a common view that while bilateral strategic relations have grown and expanded over the years, there is potential for further strengthening our economic cooperation. He added that development cooperation has also become an important pillar of our bilateral relationship. He added that training and capacity building would continue to be one of the focus areas of our cooperation. The External Affairs Minister said that given our common interest in maintaining peace and security in the region, defense and security cooperation occupies a very important role in our overall cooperation matrix. He also added that we share a similar outlook that durable peace in Afghanistan would require harmonizing the interests of all, both within and around that country. He also extended India's support to Tajikistan for the organization of the SCO summit in Dushanbe. He added that during these unprecedented times, we were able to supply made-in-India vaccines to Tajikistan recently, as well as medicines against COVID-19, which speaks of our close partnership.
And let's now shift focus and tell you more about India's largest vaccination drive. Well, that has clearly entered its next phase today. The central government has now opened up COVID-19 vaccination for all the eligible citizens above 45 years of age born before 1st of January 1977. The experts have also appealed to the citizens to get vaccinated without any hesitancy. Niti Aayog member and the chairman of the National COVID-19 Task Force, Dr. V.K. Paul, has appealed to people above 45 years of age to get vaccinated without any hesitation. The centre has also asked the states and the union territories to maintain the vaccine wastage at less than 1%. The states have also been directed to ensure the timely utilization of available stocks to avoid the expiry of vaccines. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has crossed 6.43 crore. A total of 13,04,412 vaccine doses were given till 7 in the evening on Wednesday.
India's Vaccine Metri initiative continues. Made in India vaccines on Wednesday landed in Aden, Yemen. Vaccine Metri is a humanitarian initiative undertaken by the Indian government to provide made in India COVID vaccines to other countries around the world.
Now, the guidelines issued by the Union Home Ministry for effective control of COVID-19 will come into effect from today and remain in force up to 30th April. The guidelines mandate the state and the union territories governments to strictly enforce the test, track, treat protocol and ensure observance of COVID-19 appropriate behavior by everyone and to scale up the vaccination drive to cover all the target groups. Now, with regards to test, track and treat protocol, the Home Ministry has said that the states and the union territories where the proportion of RT-PCR tests is less, it should rapidly increase to reach the prescribed level of 70% or more. The ministry also added that based on the positive cases and the tracking of their contacts, containment zones shall be carefully demarcated by the district authorities at the micro level. There shall also be no restriction on the interstate and the intrastate movement of persons and goods. All the activities, though, have been permitted outside the containment zones, and the SOPs have also been prescribed for various activities, including movement by passenger trains, air travel, metro trains, schools, shopping malls, and the yoga centers.
All right, to get us more on that, our correspondent Shama Mishra is joining us. Shama, a very important day today. The second phase of vaccination drive begins today. Added to that, also we know that Maharashtra is one of the states which is reporting the highest number of cases, and also the guidelines put forth by the Ministry of Home Affairs for further, aiming to further curb the spread of COVID-19 also come into effect from today onwards. Put all this together to begin with, get us an update on the current situation in the state.
Right, when we were talking about day before yesterday, the number had come down to 27,000 daily count of Maharashtra's COVID positive numbers. But yesterday again, we did see that the numbers again rose to 39,544. So these numbers, we know for the fact that these numbers are bound to rise, because people have also played Holi in their societies, among with their friends. So these numbers are bound to rise. Apart from that, yesterday Maharashtra has reported, more than 220 deaths. That is an alarming situation in Maharashtra. Also, we are seeing that, the people above 45 years of age, they have started to get their vaccination from today onwards. So, if both the government centers also and private centers also, they are hosting the entire vaccination drive, and once again, the largest vaccination drive of, anywhere of the world has begun from today, because in Maharashtra also we are seeing most deaths are of the age, between 45 to 60. So this was the age group which had to be targeted for them to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. And we are here at a private nursing home where the vaccination has already begun, and 45 years of age people would come here today at 9 a.m. and either through CoWIN app they can register themselves, or they can come here, and on-site registration is also available. The process is same: first shot, and then they have to wait for half an hour for observation, and then they can choose whether to take the second shot in 4 weeks time or 8 weeks time. That is on them. But yes, lot of private centers are also coming into the picture, because vaccination drive has to be ramped up, and the target of Maharashtra's government or Maharashtra's health department will now be at 4 lakh people every day.
Right. Shama, Maharashtra continues to be a cause of concern because it's once again reporting a surge in the daily COVID-19 cases. And what we're also learning is that there's a new COVID-19 variant found in Vidarbha and Nagpur. What more stricter curbs there are in place, and we're also in fact learning the RT-PCR tests, they're being capped once again by in Maharashtra. Tell us more about that. Stricter curbs in place. Are people really adhering to these stricter curbs and more fines being imposed? Shama. Shama, if you could hear me. Shama, can you hear me? All right, it seems you have lost that link with the correspondent joining us from Mumbai, Shama Mishra, but we'll try and reconnect with her and get more updates as far as Maharashtra's COVID-19 situation there is concerned. But an important day across the country, because today there's the next phase of India's vaccination drive that has started. All those we are appealing through this medium of a channel that all those above the age of 45 years, please go ahead and get yourself inoculated. That's the first step really to getting yourself protected from COVID-19. All
right, let's turn focus on to some news coming in from the world of business now. The cut in interest rates on small savings schemes of the government has been rolled back. Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs Nirmala Sitharaman has said that interest rates of small savings schemes of Government of India shall continue to be at the rates which existed in the last quarter of 2020-2021. That is the rates that prevailed as of March 2021. She added that the orders issued by oversight shall be withdrawn. Yesterday, the government had cut interest rates on small savings schemes such as post office deposits and public provident fund up to 110 basis points. Now, with the withdrawal of the order, the interest on public provident fund would remain at 7.1% and that on senior citizen savings schemes down to 7.4%. All right, joining us for more on this is our correspondent Arun. Arun, explain to us and our viewers in layman's terms, what does this rollback mean? And also, if you can put into perspective for us, what could be the possible reasons for this rollback?
Good morning to both of you. Good morning to all our viewers. And indeed, it's a good news for the small investors primarily in this new financial year. Now, we know this fact that in every financial year primarily, government reviews the interest rate that is supposed to be paid out to the small investors on instruments like PPF, Kisan Vikas Patra, Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, 1 year fixed deposit, 2 year fixed deposit, 3 year fixed deposit, 5 year fixed deposit, and so on. So the instruments under the ambit of 80C. Now, 80C is an ambit whereby you can claim tax rebate while investing in these small saving instruments. So what happened yesterday? The Finance Ministry primarily reviewed the interest rates, and the interest rates were slashed as far as the small saving interest rates are concerned. So if I can give a small overview, that the PPF, which is considered to be the most attractive investment options for the small investors, specifically the senior citizens. So till last fiscal year, the government said that it will be paying 7.1 interest rate, 7.1% interest rate on instruments like PPF, and this was slashed yesterday to about 6.4%. So this was a massive slash as far as the interest rate are concerned. So just for the benefit of our user, if in case an investor is investing 40,000 rupees annually in instrument like PPF, he could garner approximately 9,91,000 at the end of 15 years. But now, interestingly, we know this fact that if in case this interest rates were slashed from now onwards, the interest rate or primarily the maturity amount could have been gone down by close to 50,000 to 60,000 rupees. So this could have been a loss to the small investor. The small investors could have been discouraged by this in this post-COVID world. So Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, came out with this bold decision, and of course this people's-friendly decision to maintain the interest rates that were there in the COVID pandemic time as well, and these interest rates will continue in this current fiscal as well. That means starting from today. So the savings instrument or the small saving instruments like PPF, Kisan Vikas Patra, Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, that will continue to fetch the kind of interest rate that were being fetched till last fiscal also. So this is a people's-friendly approach primarily by the government. Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, taking this bold decision of maintaining the interest rate that were earlier. Now we know this fact that interest rate, Preeti, is going down globally, be it European countries, be it US, or be it other developed or emerging economies. The interest rates are going down globally because what the central banks all across the world are trying to do, they're trying to slash the interest rate so that demand can be created, in the economies. And so did the RBI. RBI also slashed the interest rate by approximately 1.25% in this entire last fiscal. That means in the COVID era as well, interest rates were slashed by up to 1.25% in this entire last fiscal as well. That means the Reserve Bank of India is trying to create demand in the market, so people do come out and they start taking loan. The credit growth can be increased. The people, the corporates, the industries start taking loan. So on the one side, repo rate in our country is close to 4%. And technically, if you equate this thing, that if in case deposits, interest rate on deposits are going down, there is enough liquidity although in the market, the deposit rates on the small primarily the interest rate on the small savings schemes are bound to go down. That's the reason why Finance Ministry's review committee primarily decided the interest rate, and they were slashed, on 31st of March. But now Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, considering the aspect of senior citizens primarily, and of course all those investors who invest in small savings scheme for the benefit of taking tax rebate, and of course for the saving purposes as well. So that's the reason why Finance Minister, tweeted early in the morning and gave this good news on this new fiscal year primarily of maintaining the current interest rate on these small savings schemes in this new fiscal year as well.
All right, Arun, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing all those details there on that news that's coming in as far as the interest rates for small savings schemes are concerned. Thanks very much.
All right, time now to turn focus on to international updates now in our segment Across the Globe.
Now, US President Joe Biden on Wednesday outlined a $2.3 trillion plan to re-engineer the country's infrastructure over the next 8 years. The move is billed as a once-in-a-generation investment in America that would undo his predecessor's signature legislative achievement of giant tax cuts for corporations in the process. While this is Biden's second multi-trillion-dollar legislative proposal in 2 months in office and is aimed to provide support to an economy walloped by the COVID-19 pandemic. Biden said the goal was not to target the wealthy, but to address divisions and inequality worsened by the pandemic.
U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry, will be visiting India for consultations on increasing climate ambition ahead of Joe Biden's Leaders' Summit on Climate. During the visit, Kerry is expected to hold talks with Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar and also may call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Apart from India, Kerry is also visiting the United Arab Emirates and Bangladesh between 1st and 9th of April. It will be Kerry's first Leaders' Summit on Climate, and that will be held on 22nd and 23rd of April, while the 26th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change will be held later this year. In a tweet, Kerry said, and I quote him, he is looking forward to meaningful discussions with friends in the Emirates, India and Bangladesh on how to tackle the climate crisis.
Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday appealed to right-wing rivals to come back home and align themselves with him again to break a deadlock following the last week's inconclusive elections. The final tally in Israel's fourth elections in 2 years gave Netanyahu's conservative Likud party and kindred factions 52 seats in the 120-member parliament. A potential opposition bloc also was short of a governing majority with 57 seats. The Israel President, Rivlin, who has been tasked by the law to choose a candidate to try to form a government, will begin meeting with political parties to hear their recommendations. He said he'll pick a candidate by 7th of April.
The European Commission on Wednesday took the Polish government to the European Union's top court for undermining the independence of judges and preventing them from applying the EU law in Poland. The Commission also asked the European Union Court to order interim measures until it produces a ruling. The Union said that the Polish law adopted in December 2019 was incompatible with the primacy of EU law and prevented Polish courts through disciplinary steps from directly applying the EU law that protects judicial independence. The Commission has even asked the court to suspend the effects of the decisions already taken by the disciplinary chamber and suspend the Polish law that prevents judges from directly applying EU law and from putting questions to the ECJ.
An update now from Myanmar, where protesters on Wednesday continued to demonstrate on the streets of Yangon. Despite a rising death toll as the military government continues crackdown in the country, a group of protesters took to the streets chanting, singing a revolutionary song and holding placard with the photos of ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Now, as per the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, more than 500 civilians have been killed in the protests. Meanwhile, in the south of Myanmar, protesters in rural Langlon township on Wednesday marched, holding candles and were chanting slogans. The demonstrators also gathered to sing revolutionary songs. The anti-coup protesters continue to be out in force for the 58 days since the military junta overthrew the elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and her government.
Europe's medicines regulator has said that it had not yet identified any risk factors such as age, sex, or a previous history of blood clotting disorders for clotting cases reported after inoculation with AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine. The European Medicines Agency's statement comes after several countries, including Canada, Germany, France and Spain, limited the use of the drug maker's shot to certain populations at high risk, including older people and essential workers. The EMA reiterated that the vaccine's benefits outweigh the risks, but cautioned that people should be aware of the remote possibility of rare blood clots occurring and must seek immediate medical attention in case of symptoms. Investigations by the European regulator and several other national authorities are underway after initial probes deemed the vaccine safe for use following hospitalizations with clots, including rare ones in the brain, bleeding and low platelets. The EMA chief It's expected to brief the media later in the day on the investigations conducted so far.
A causal link with the vaccine has not yet been proven, but it is possible and further analysis is still ongoing. According to the current scientific knowledge, there is no evidence that would support restricting the use of this vaccine in any population. Our committee, Prague, continues to review all the data available and will aim to reach a scientific conclusion on this signal next week.
Now, Pfizer Inc. and BioNTech have said that their COVID-19 vaccine was safe and effective and produced robust antibody responses in 12 to 15-year-olds. While this paves the way for them to seek U.S. emergency use authorization in weeks. Pfizer's chairman and chief executive said that the company hopes that the vaccinations of the group could begin before the next school year. Now, Pfizer's vaccine is already authorized for use in people starting at the age of 16. The new study offers the first evidence of how the vaccine will also work in the school-age adolescents. In the trial of 2,260 adolescents aged 12 to 15, there were 18 cases of COVID-19 in the group that got a placebo shot and none in the group that got the vaccine, resulting in 100% efficacy in preventing COVID-19. Now, last week, the companies gave the first vaccine doses in a series of trials testing the vaccine in younger children that will eventually go to those as young as 6 months of age.
Yemen received its first COVID-19 vaccine consignment yesterday, a week after the internationally recognized government declared a health emergency in areas under its control. The 3.6 lakh doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine arrived by plane at Aden, part of a consignment from the global COVAX vaccine sharing scheme, expected to total 1.9 million doses this year. The COVAX vaccines will be free and distributed across the country, with more shots arriving in May. Yemen's health system has been battered by war, economic collapse, and recently a shortfall in humanitarian aid funding.
Now, President Emmanuel Macron has ordered France into its third national lockdown and said schools would close for 3 weeks as he sought to push back a third wave of COVID-19 infections that threatens to overwhelm the hospitals. In his live televised address yesterday, Macron described the situation in the country as delicate and said that April would prove crucial. Well, the new announcement means that movement restrictions already in place for more than a week in Paris now, and some northern and southern regions will now apply to the whole country for at least a month from Saturday. The new measures will be in place for at least 1 month. Macron also said that schools will close for at least 3 weeks as part of new national restrictions to fight the rising COVID-19 cases. He also added that schools would move to remote learning from next week.
Spain has tightened the masks rules from yesterday, making them mandatory in outdoor spaces like beaches and swimming pools, even if people follow the 1.5-meter social distancing rule. Currently, some regions require people to wear masks when arriving and departing from the beach, but not while sunbathing. Under the new regulation, people not to be allowed to remove their masks also while they're at the beach. It replaces the current rules, which have been in force since June 2020, that only require face coverings to be worn when social distancing is restricted. The measure has no end date, but will last until the government declares the COVID-19 crisis over.
And with that, let's now move on, get you an update on the symbolic Dhandhi yatra flagged off by Prime Minister Modi on 12th of March this year as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations. It was on this day in 1930 that Mahatma Gandhi had observed a day's fast of silence in Surat. For Gandhi ji believed that ahimsa and Maun were inextricably linked. Bapu undertook Maun Vrat on various occasions as part of his philosophy of ahimsa as well as satyagraha. Following the same path shown by Gandhi ji 91 years on, the Padyatris on Wednesday remembered Bapu through his hymns, messages and thoughts. and filled with patriotism in their hearts. The Padyatris also sang Raghupati Raghav Rajaram. That's one of Mahatma Gandhi's most beloved hymns.
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम 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 भज प्यारे तू सीताराम ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरो नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम.
All right, time now to get you updates from the world of business in our segment Biz Buzz. The World Trade Organization slightly revised up its forecast for growth this year of the global goods trade after a decline in 2020, far less severe than its expectations when the COVID-19 virus first struck. WTO has said that it expected merchandise trade would grow this year by 8% after a fall of 5.3% last. It further said that trade growth should slow to 4% in 2022, with the effects of pandemic continuing to be felt and with global trade below its pre-pandemic trend.
Now, the S&P 500 closed higher yesterday, boosted by gains in technology shares, and the three major Wall Street indexes registering their fourth straight quarterly rise. Unofficially, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell around 6 points to 33,060. The S&P 500 gained 22.58 points to 3,981, and the Nasdaq Composite added to 20 points to 13,265.
And up next, we get to Web Review, wherein a colleague joins us every morning to get us what has been put forth by various social media platforms.
And we have Tapash Bhattacharya joining us this morning. Tapash, good morning. Take our viewers through what all have you picked up from across the World Wide Web in Web News Review.
Right, good morning, Nancy and Preeti, both of you. And yes, the first news that we are tracking that went viral yesterday evening, that was the Delhi to hold random COVID test on flyers amidst the surge, and that's the news from the Telegraph. Although it went viral, but we are taking it from Telegraph, where the Delhi Disaster Management Authority has said that they will conduct a random test of passengers coming from states which has seen a surge in the COVID cases, and the Delhi airport has said that, and the center has also said that the situation is turning from bad to worse, and especially in some states where there's the coronavirus cases have surged a lot, and the Delhi airport on a Twitter's handle has said that they are going to conduct random tests from passengers who are coming from those states which has seen the surge. So that was the first story we are tracking. The second story that we are tracking is the Indo-Tibetan Border Police that plans to double its women's contingent. So that's a huge boost for the women officers, women contingent on LAC. That's a line of actual control. So IDTB plans to double its women contingent, especially in Ladakh and Northeast. And for the first time in 2019, the women's contingent, which is comprising of almost 500 troops of ITTP, actually broke the glass ceiling, and now they are planning to increase the number of women officers in those particular areas. Remember, this is something that will give a lot of confidence to the woman folk who plans to join the army and serve the nation. So that was the second story that we are tracking. This third story that's from that came around 12 o'clock at midnight, where France ordered the schools closure and widened the COVID-19 restriction, where French President Emmanuel Macron extended the movement restriction to cover the whole of France and said that schools who would be closed for 3 weeks as he sought to push back a third wave of COVID-19 and infection that threatens to overwhelm the hospitals. Macron said that he was extending the lockdown, keeping in mind that the rules already in place, and especially the places where north and parts of the southeast, which has seen a surge in the COVID-19 cases. Approximately 95,000 people have died in France because of COVID-19 pandemic. So that's one of the reasons why they have extended the lockdown. And this news came around 12 o'clock at midnight and started trending in web from there onwards. The fourth and the last but not the least story that we are tracking is from the World Cup qualifier, the FIFA World Cup qualifier, where the European giants have made massive gains. All the continent's heavyweight countries secured victories, though Spain left it later, the second minute of the stoppage time to be precise to see off Georgia 2-1 after falling behind. So like Spain, France started its qualification campaign with an unexpected draw at home. But it's in the second game, it eased on to a 2-0 win over Tajikistan. And England also moved to a maximum 6 points with a 2-0 victory over Albania. And Germany also made it, 2 straight win with a win over Romania 1-0. So overall, one can say that the European giants have made great start in the FIFA qualifier, and that's something that the World Web was also buzzing about the whole night when the match was going on. That's all from the web review from myself. Back to you, Preeti and Nancy, for more news and updates.
All right. Thank you so much, Tapas, for joining us with that web review this morning.
Absolutely. With that, let's move on now to our next segment and get you all the sports news in Sports Track. The World Cup qualifying match saw a major upset when the 4-time FIFA World Cup champions Germany lost to North Macedonia 1-2. In this match, the spectators had to wait for 45 minutes to see the goal in the first half of the injury time. Goran Pandev and Eljif Elmas of North Macedonia gave Macedonia a 2-1 victory in the match, while Germany's star striker Gundogan scored 1 goal for Germany.
In another World Cup qualifying match, Italy won 2-0 over Lithuania. After 2 minutes in the second half, the Italian side made a move and their player Sansi scored the goal 1-0. After this, Ciro Immobile of Italy scored the goal 2-0 in the injury time of the game.
And with that, let's move on now and get you a look at the significance of this day in history.
On 1st April 1889, RSS founding Sir Sanchalak and a prominent member of the Hindu Mahasabha, Keshav Baliram Hidgewar, was born in Nagpur in Maharashtra. Hidgewar founded the RSS in Nagpur in 1925. On 1st April 1935, the Reserve Bank of India was set up. RBI controls the monetary policy of the Indian rupee. The RBI was nationalized on 1st January 1949. On this day in 1941, Indian international cricketer Ajit Lakshman Wadekar was born in Mumbai. He played for the Indian national team between 1966 and 1974. Also on this day in 1960, Television and Infrared Observation Satellite or TIROS was launched by NASA from Cape Canaveral in Florida, US. On this day in 1973, a wildlife conservation project was launched that came to be known as Project Tiger. It was launched from the Jim Corbett National Park of Uttarakhand.
And after this segment, we take a look at weather across the country. A low pressure area lies over South Andaman Sea and neighbourhood, and it is likely to become more marked over central parts of Andaman Sea and neighbourhood during the next 12 hours. A widespread to scattered rainfall is likely over Andaman and Nicobar Islands during the next 5 days. Thunderstorm, lightning and gusty winds are also likely over Andaman and Nicobar Islands over the next 2 days. Fishermen are advised not to venture into South Andaman Sea and adjoining Southeast Bay of Bengal today and into North Andaman Sea tomorrow. Because of this, strong lower level southwesterly winds from Bay of Bengal and other conditions, fairly to widespread rainfall is likely over northeast India also during today and tomorrow time period. Strong surface winds will be likely over Punjab, Rajasthan, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. And now we take a look at major temperatures across major cities of the country. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Breakfast News this morning. We'll be back with a fresh edition tomorrow. But before we go, we leave you with this reminder every day. As we told you, it is 1st of April today, and the next phase of the vaccination drive will begin today onwards. That does not mean that we need to sit back and relax. Remember, the fight against the pandemic is on a decisive state, but also you have to make sure that you keep the guards on and keep wearing a mask, wear it correctly and properly. That's the best precaution you can have against COVID-19.
Absolutely, yes. We want you to stay safe and stay healthy and stay protected against COVID-19. With that, it's a wrap. And before we go, we are taking you to Japan there, where the cherry blossoms are in fact blooming, and it's also called the famous Sakura season there. We'll take a look at this beautiful cherry blossoms there across Japan. Have a great and a safe day ahead.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for being with us.